Welcome back to Maria. I'm your host, Maria Cardona. I'm here with my co-host, Ruben Gonzales, the Vice President of the LGBTQ Victory Institute. And we are welcoming Irvin Camacho, Bail Disruptor in Northwest Arkansas for the Bail Project. Irvin, thank you so much for being on Maria today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Maria, and Ruben. Thank you for the invitation.
Irvin, what is the Bail Project?
So the Bail Project is a national organization that has sites across the country, one of them being in Arkansas, which is the one that I'm a part of. And we pretty much help out folks, usually of high poverty areas, bail out of the jails, but provide community support after they're released, just to make sure they don't fall back into the cycle. You know, we believe that people should be allowed to have their freedom to go live their lives, be with their families, work their jobs, and then come back for their court dates, just the same way that anybody with money is able to do that. So pretty much that's the basis of it, providing community support for folks to make sure that, you know, that they don't fall back into the cycle and they're able to live successful, happy lives with their families.
Irvin, I love this idea of being a disruptor. There's so many systems that we know need disruption, and bail sounds like one of those. There may be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it may be a misconception that people believe that in order for a person to return to court, that bail sort of ensures that they're going to come back. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that a misconception by maybe the public that thinks that that's necessary to get people to return?
Yes, people generally think that, but there really isn't valid data to back that up. And that's kind of what we're trying to prove with the folks that we bond out. We keep track of like, we have their contact information. So we make sure that we kind of check up with them on like a weekly basis if we can. And folks are showing up for us. Right now on our site specifically in Arkansas, we have like a 91% return rate. So folks are showing up to court. And they don't need, it just proves that they don't need like to invest their own money to make sure that they show up, because then they'll lose that money. You know, people are just showing up because they know it's the right thing to do.
You know, that reminds me of the myth that people believe that when you have an undocumented immigrant that is taken into custody and then they are released with a court date, everyone believes that 100% of the time those immigrants never come back. And that's not true either. I know that through your project, you've done some crucial work in advocating against 287G, which is a federal program that targets undocumented immigrants. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So 287G, of course, being a federal program that's voluntary, and usually the sheriffs are the ones that choose to be part of the program or not in different counties. Right now, I think there's 75 counties around our country that have this program, but pretty much what it does, of course, locally, is that it does add an immigration detainer. And it can be folks literally who had like public intoxication, small charges can eventually lead to their deportation. But yeah, 287G here has caused a lot of deportations for folks who make a mistake or two. And I feel that that's completely wrong, because it's part of the separating families machine, you know?
Irvin, in communities where they don't have something like a 287G to protect undocumented people in the process, what does the system look like for undocumented people that are paying bail versus somebody who's a citizen? How does that differ for undocumented versus citizens?
Here in Arkansas, specifically in Washington County and Benton County, whenever an undocumented person gets put in jail, when this program was active, they'd get asked what country they come from, right? And if they said that it was a different country, ICE would investigate to see if they were undocumented or not. And what ends up happening is that they place the ICE detainer on them. So if we or someone else or a family member goes to pay bail for this person, ICE has 48 hours to come pick them up. So it pretty much triggers like ICE to know that, hey, this person's trying to get this person out. So you have 48 hours to come get them. And that eventually leads to them being sent to Louisiana, and a lot of the times deportation, unfortunately.
Irvin, you're doing such incredible work on behalf of our community, and it sounds like this is personal to you. Can you share why it's personal?
Yes, I mean, talking specifically about my direct family, you know, my dad broke the law and eventually was deported. And it was something due to like a traffic issue. And it wasn't nothing serious. So I personally know, I guess, what it feels like to be separated from a family member. And I understand how horrible it is for a family member to be incarcerated. My father was incarcerated at the Louisiana Detention Center, and just kind of hearing from him how horrible the conditions were at that detention center, the guards taking advantage of a lot of the people that are there, specifically the undocumented people, even at times being violent. It is personal for me, and I empathize with the families that have people that are in the system, and I want to do everything in my power. And I know that the organization, the Bell Project, wants to do everything in their power to make sure that we can battle these high incarceration rates in our country, specifically in Arkansas.
The Bail Project is doing great work disrupting a system that disproportionately affects the Latino community, poor people, people of color. It sounds like it is completely worth scaling what the Bail Project does to a national level. What would it take to do that?
I think definitely ending cash bail is what the goal is for this organization. You know, we need to speak to our. If we need to start at a state level, we understand, and we are already in conversations with state representatives. We want to initiate more conversations with congressmen, but laws need to be passed. I know that recently New York attempted to end cash bail on their end, and that's great. But we definitely need to do it on a more national level, because there are too many people that are incarcerated, and they're incarcerated before they're even found guilty, and they're in jail for 2 or 3 months waiting for that court date. Because of this pandemic, court dates are being pushed back months. You know, I have someone who we bailed out back in March, and he hasn't even had his first court date yet. Because of the pandemic, it was pushed to December. So imagine if he was incarcerated, he'd be in there for months, simply just on the fact that, like, there's too many people, not enough public defenders, because a lot of work is placed on their desk, and that causes people to be punished before they're even found guilty or innocent.
Irvin, this is such incredible work that you're doing. Thank you for doing it. And I hope you are able and find the resources and the support that you need to continue to do it. Thank you so much for being on Maria.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity to be on this platform and educate our community and just encourage them to show up to vote in November, because that's so important.
Amen, amigo. Gracias.